Dan Rubenstein.
Yes, that's me.
We called it Sow Your Oats Saturday.
Yeah.
It did not look as crazy in week 6 as it did in week 5. We did not have as many obvious bangers on the slate. It looked like, a quieter week.
Sure, certainly.
It's always the quiet ones, isn't it, Dan?
I guess as a week, it was a snake in the toilet Saturday was what it was.
It's always the quiet ones. Just when we think we've got it all figured out, that's when the chaos ensues. In week 5, we had the bangers, but in week 6, we had 3 top 15 teams lose to unranked opponents. Throughout the course of this episode, we're going to do our part to go through all of that and much, much more. We also have a healthy batch of reverbs that we're going to dive into here towards the end of the show. We're going to take some questions from people who are watching live, who have stayed up to watch us live on YouTube. So if you've got any of those, mull them over. By the time we get to the end of the show, we'll put some of those up on the screen. Of course, we had a bunch of dude alerts come in as per usual here on the show. And as a special treat, just to get everybody fighting a little bit more, I am going to reveal my top 12 ballot towards the end of this episode. Dan Rubenstein, hit follow, hit subscribe. We've got a lot to discuss, my friend. Welcome back to the show. How you doing tonight?
You're gonna vote on a personal top 12 with Cal and Duke still going?
That's right. That's right.
You're not gonna let Tron Grizel affect your top 12?
Unfortunately not. For as much as I like Cal and JKS, no, Tron Grizel will not be making an appearance.
He just rolled his ankle, by the way, JKS. He seems to be okay.
Beautiful. Well, look, there is a lot to discuss here on this episode. This, as you know, is kind of our reaction stream. Welcome to all who are tuning in live, or to those of you who are listening after the fact. Last week, we did this live from a basement in State College. Now we're at our normal basements.
Home basement. Yeah.
Home basement in Eastern PA. And, of course, out in Chicago, Illinois. Dan, where do you want to start today? Where do we lead this thing off?
I want to start with my sympathies for those of us who, or for those of you who are only listening to the show and not viewing it, as Ty is in his premium Lee Trevino look tonight.
I am.
His hat and his crew neck sweatshirt and his eyebrows. There's nothing better than this. Where do we want to start? Let's start with, what was the game that entertained me the most? Maybe Florida, Texas? I don't know.
I think we need to start with the Penn State game.
You sure? I mean, I was entertained by Florida State, Miami, but okay, let's start Penn State, UCLA.
Look, the big story of the day was the Penn State UCLA game.
Okay.
It was the biggest upset we've seen so far this year. It could end up being the biggest upset for the entirety of the 2025 college football season. It comes on the heels of the game that we were at, the whiteout game that went to overtime.
Yeah.
Your Oregon Ducks edged out Penn State in OT, incredible environment. We did the show, we were all juiced up after that one. So
sure,
as you might expect, right? Traveling cross country, if you're Penn State a week after, taking Oregon to the wire, going to overtime, there were expectations here. There was a large line. It was like 24 points. It might have been bigger. I didn't even see what it closed at. But the expectation was it was a reeling UCLA team that's already fired its coach. It's a Penn State team that came up a bit short. Maybe there'll be a bit of a hangover effect traveling cross country playing against a team like UCLA, but it didn't look as if there was going to be a whole lot of resistance there, Dan.
Yeah, and the one thing Penn State didn't factor into its plans, Jerry Neuheisel, play caller,
and his wonderful Mufasa mane of blonde hair, the best hair in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Where do we start here? I mean, look,
UCLA was good. Let
me say this. Let me say this.
Fine.
Let's credit UCLA.
Yeah, of course.
The season's already a wash for UCLA. They are playing in an empty stadium for an interim coach. I saw some tweets out there, people on the Penn State side joking that Penn State's coaches were out-coached by a team that fired their coaches.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny, if not sad. These guys could have fully given up. They didn't. They came to play. Shout out again, Jerry Neuheisel. He should get the NIL deal with Nutrafol. That's a beautiful head of hair he's got, and he called a great game He had Penn State on skates. They scored 42 points. Credit to him.
That'd be interim play caller and offensive coordinator Jerry Neuheisel with Tino Sunseri and the team breaking up a few days ago. So an interim OC thrust into the responsibilities of play calling like 96 hours ago or something. So UCLA in front of 9,600 people, 4,400 people. I mean, there was a lot of, you look at the Rose Bowl and a lot of signage that was blocking a lot of the seats. Sponsors were bought in to making the Rose Bowl look a little bit less empty, I guess. Penn State's not that good. I'm speaking in the present tense. It doesn't mean that they can't have a really good season today, right now. They are not a good team. They had opportunities last week. That's a very good Oregon team. This is a UCLA team who lost to New Mexico and got their coach fired. They've since had subsequent firings on the interim staff. Tim Skipper, who I want to say was the interim coach at Fresno last season.
Yep.
He was named the interim coach at UCLA. Nico Iamaleava looked like a blue chip quarterback. Penn State's defense, a beat up defense. No Tony Rojas, I believe, starting linebacker, all conference caliber linebacker in this game. And Nico looked great. The defense kind of knew what Penn State was doing on offense for the first half, like all of the time. And there was a certain amount of confidence, especially on the ground for UCLA. And Nico did make plays through the air. There's a certain amount of confidence. Like, I'm going to run straight at this team. This play has broken down. I see a lane, and I don't feel like these arm tackles are going to work. And they didn't. And so I know you have thoughts about the Penn State side of this. UCLA look like a scrappy team with nothing to lose because that's exactly who they are. They got Penn State in an extraordinary spot, traveling across the country after a big emotional loss. These are games that you and I love to spotlight as a bad situation, but UCLA has been a bad team and program, so it's kind of less impactful to spotlight UCLA in this spot. But man, did they come to play in all phases, whereas Penn State kind of felt like they could show up and win this game 31-17, 31-14. Not so fast.
No, I mean, look, for all the talk on the Penn State side, about culture and, the 1-0 mentality, they're wearing pins around 1-0.
Sure.
Right? For all of the talk and all of the work that they have done to try and cement this program as an elite caliber program, certainly they've done it on the recruiting trail. The defense never got off the plane today. It did not get off the plane, and I understand there are some injuries, but still, that's no excuse. The play calling on both sides was mind-boggling, Dan. You want to talk about
both sides of the ball for Penn State, yes.
Yeah, you want to talk about the predictability of the offense in the first half. I mean, this offense has been predictable going back a year now. Okay, so this isn't anything new, but UCLA just trained in on it, was able to stop it. They were basically held in check for the entire first half.
Yeah.
Defensively, how many times were they going to let Nico scramble before they spied him? How many times? He was like Mike Vick out there. Yeah. They couldn't stop him. And they committed no resources to trying to do so. Talk about driving you crazy watching at home.
I agree.
And then on offense, they were down 13 going into the fourth quarter and still, for whatever reason, trying to establish the run with Nick Singleton, who was not nearly as good as Katron Allen in this game.
No.
It looked like a game plan exactly the way you described it, where they showed up and they expected that they would win because they were supposed to be better.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They lost 42-37, and now the season goes up in smoke to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
There are a whole host of questions. We've had a bunch emailed into us already. But that's the crux of it, Dan. This was a poorly coached team today. It was a team that showed up with a hangover. And it just goes to show, even on a day where you're going up against a team like UCLA, where nobody is in the stands and they've seemingly got nothing to play for, this is still a Big Ten opponent. This is still a team with talent. Not nearly as much talent. But on any given day, if you do not bring your A game, this is what can happen. And Penn State learned the lesson the hard way. And I am angry about it.
Sure.
I am frustrated with it. I have many additional thoughts on the coaching staff and the direction of the program and all of that. But at its core, UCLA came to play and Penn State did not. And I credit the Bruins for getting the dub.
Well, they're only paying Jim Knowles like $85,000 this year, right? For a result like this. Honestly, my take here is I was almost surprised you wanted to start with this game. I obviously know that you have an interest in Penn State and you are a Penn State fan and you have a lot of emotions tied to this team and the expectations around this year. But the way they played and the way that the offense didn't play last week and obviously came back, they almost don't deserve that much of our time and the show's time.
Well,
right?
they
And
do
like,
because this was, and it continues a trend that I think we're going to get into now as we talk about Texas losing.
sure.
I mean, as we have talked about with Clemson losing, I mean, there were a grouping of teams in everybody's top 10 at a minimum, that suddenly are not nearly as good as expected for one reason or another.
Right.
And Penn State this week just happened to be, I think, the target of that. And it's going to be the target of much ire for sure in the Penn State community. The thing that people have been sending in already is questions about James Franklin.
Sure.
And this is where it gets interesting. So for those playing along at home, James Franklin's buyout is $50 million, give or take. It's kind of hard to justify spending that much in dead money to get rid of a guy who consistently wins 9 or 10 games every year.
Right.
But that said, I don't know how you come back from this. Like, we're so far beyond Einstein's definition of insanity with Franklin in big games. It's not a talent thing, Dan. Franklin himself in the run up to the season said that this is his most complete team ever.
Okay. My only issue with that is you've got a running quarterback who can't throw. And so if seeing the field and making, smart, quick decisions is a part of somebody's talent, it might be a talent thing for Penn State.
But he's not a running quarterback. I mean, the system might be better for a running quarterback. But
if you came down from Neptune this year and watched Drew Aller play football, you'd say that's a running quarterback who sometimes makes interesting throws, right?
It is not a talent thing, though. It shouldn't be a talent thing.
You got receivers you feel good about?
No, because of the way that they've recruited.
Yeah.
This should not be a question of talent. It just shouldn't be. Okay. It's not a facilities thing. They're building like crazy. It's not a schedule thing. Everything was set up for them. This is a coaching thing. The Oregon game was supposed to be the start of this redemption arc for Franklin.
Yeah.
And that was a loss that stung. I think this loss highlighted just how much it stung, how big of a disappointment it was to come up again. So now where we find ourselves, and I promise you I won't ramble on for 20 minutes about this, though I could. Now James Franklin finds himself in the very odd situation of where he could run the table, he could beat Ohio State, and he still could miss out on the Big Ten, could miss out on the playoff, and worst, he won't even have a chance to redeem himself. That's where we're at right now in the tenure of James Franklin. All of this, even if they run the table, could ultimately be meaningless because for whatever reason, they lost this game to UCLA. And this one is going to last far longer, even though the Oregon one was much higher profile. This is the one that's going to be the fly in the ointment when push comes to shove down the stretch here, if there's a question about them getting into the playoff. So, I don't know. I just kept thinking about this over and over again. And everything you hear is that Franklin has a great relationship, a great rapport with the higher ups, the powers that be. They've prioritized football in the way that he wants. He finally got the formula the way he wants it, Does this not feel like a relationship at this point that maybe they'd be better off just being friends?
Sure, but $50 million to break up is a different element to all of this. Man. I mean, this is the football gods, by the way. You Penn State was your national champion, right?
They're my national champion. I jinxed everybody, man. Everybody got friggin' jinxed.
Look, not that I have any room. I think I chose Texas, right? I want to say I chose Texas to be my national champion. But picking Penn State and having them lose to UCLA,
brutal.
That's sort of a different. There's a little Mo Bamba on the piano for you.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Here's my point.
Yeah.
If it's not going to happen this year with this roster and the way everything was set up, when's it going to happen?
It's not.
It's not.
Spoiler.
It's just not. So if you're eventually going to move on past Franklin, then find a way to do it sooner than later. I don't know where you come up with that money. I don't know if it makes any logistical sense. It probably does not. because the guy does still win and he's still a pretty successful coach. But if you are holding yourself to a higher standard and if you consistently fall short of that standard, then something needs to change. Yeah. And that's where I'm at. Now I'll shut up.
Okay. No, everything you said is reasonable. That was an uninspired performance and an inspired performance from UCLA all at the same time.
I scared the crap out of the dog. I threw something at the wall. Thankfully, I didn't leave a mark. Kate would have been mad, but I was very angry and the dog was very upset.
Oh, sorry to hear it, Ty. I'm sorry to hear it.
Now, you were more entertained by Florida State, Miami. Why don't I hand the mic over to you? Tell me why you were more entertained by that game.
Because Malachi Toney plays for one of those two teams.
Malachi Toney?
Malachi Toney. I said Coley. Yeah. Malachi Toney. I'm just off of my receiver names this year. I've got receiver name yips. Malachi Toney is sensational. And what Miami was able to do early on in just completely silencing Florida State's offense and hound Florida State up front and completely dominate the line of scrimmage. Carson Beck making the plays that he made, making Florida State scramble. And what's your term? Oop-de-oop? That the Gus ball is like the oop-de-oop offense. And, the best of Tommy Castellanos is very entertaining. But I don't know. I think you need to bring a little bit more offensively for this Miami team. And that was at home for Florida State. And it just felt over very quickly. It felt like Florida State scored. I want to say they went up 3-0 relatively early on, and then it was 14-3 relatively early on. And the more you watched Florida State try to move the ball or finish drives, it just became very apparent very quickly that this is not a team that is built to hang for 4 quarters. And they made the score look closer than it actually was at the end there as Miami, in sort of typical fashion.
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Are you referencing Mario mode?
Mario.
We had a little bit of Mario mode at the end. Thank you.
I know,
Miami had something like 18 yards in the fourth quarter.
It's an inappropriate sound because they won.
They did win.
So they won this game. They looked faster. They looked angrier. They looked like they had more fire underneath them than Florida State. And it's not to say that Virginia beat Florida State twice. Because even if they pulled out that game in double overtime last week, Miami's just a different beast. They're a different animal. And so I came away thinking when you pair the kind of spark that Miami has at offensive skill positions, because I thought they ran the ball impressively as well. And yes, you're right. They did pack it in, and we're just we're going to get 2 of the most impressive yards ever, every snap in the fourth quarter. But when you compare that with the fire that they played with on defense, I just felt that Miami is they're building to something that they haven't seen lately.
No, not even. No, look.
I don't know where I put them amongst the Ohio States, Oregons, take your pick in the SEC, whoever it is. Maybe it's Alabama after this week. I'm not positive where they fit in there, but they're in that conversation.
Well, they're in the conversation. What's interesting about Miami is just I come away from every Miami game feeling like they're just really solid.
Right.
And solid this year feels like it's in short supply. Does it not?
No, it does. And they weren't getting great burst on the ground. It wasn't an overwhelming day on the ground for Miami. But if you're able to couple explosion plays, which Miami seems to be hitting on a level that is amongst the nation's elite through the air at their best, and it was at that level tonight. And just that sort of defense, especially up front. Yeah, that's the formula.
I am really impressed. And I didn't see the official stats. I got to go back and watch tomorrow.
I've got them in front of me right now.
And I don't know if you have offensive, defensive stats, but
I do.
The thing that really stuck out to me was, again, line play.
Yes.
And it should come as no surprise if you followed Cristobal through the years. You know that's how he likes to build his teams, but it just felt like another game where their line play was superior, both in terms of protecting Carson Beck, who had a good game, 240, 4 touchdowns. It didn't feel like he was under much duress. And then on the flip side, disrupting a lot of what Florida State wanted to do offensively.
Yes.
Florida State didn't really run the ball outside of Tommy Castellanos. They had a couple nice runs from Gavin Sawchuk, but by and large, the plane was built out of Castellanos, and it seemed as if he was running for his life more often than not. Now, maybe that was a design of the offense to try and put him on the move. I'm sure there was some element of that, but as we have seen time and again from this Miami defensive line, they are in the backfield, and
Mm-hmm.
they are a problem for all opposing offensive lines that they have played thus far, and I think will continue to be for the ones that are yet to come on the schedule, because the schedule gets easier after this game.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's any other way to look at it. The schedule gets easier, and it's going to be a matchup nightmare for the teams that remain in the second half of the season now for the Canes. So, like, Tom Castellanos, like,
Right.
really good effort in a losing effort, and did try to bring Florida State back. They did almost get the backdoor cover of the 4.5. They ended up losing 28-22. They kick a late field goal to try and give themselves a shot at an onside kick. I give Florida State credit for fighting to the final whistle and trying to get as close to Miami as they possibly could. But this was, again, a situation where Miami was just dominant where it counts. Cristobal said after the game, they're state champs again. And I thought that was sort of a fitting way to close things out. Miami looks the real deal.
By the way,
just
just
the real deal.
blemish-wise, you're right. I mean, they were up 28-10, 28-11 or something with 3-4 minutes left in this game. 13 penalties for 100-plus yards. Not anything concerning. Didn't directly affect the win-loss column in this one, but those types of performances, especially on the road, if things can't get a little bit more buttoned up, that's how you lose a winnable game, right? That's like the missed free throws theory, that like those add up real quickly and, in key moments. So there's time to clean it up. There's a lot more to like and love about Miami right now than not, but something worth paying attention to.
Malachi Toney reminds me of Devontae Smith a little bit when he played for Miami. I mean, they're different builds. They're different players.
For Alabama?
For Alabama. What did I say? Yeah.
For Miami. Yeah.
Devontae Smith is obviously slighter in his build, and Toney is a little bit bigger. But what's true in both cases is when they start running, you don't realize how fast they're going. And
you're never going to catch those dudes from behind. Yeah.
It just looks smooth.
Agreed.
And you don't realize it until you see him just lapping the field. So as a true freshman, they mentioned on the broadcast, only turned 18 a few weeks ago. I mean, the sky is the limit for that kid. It's incredible. So I'm curious to see
who
what
his quarterback is next year. Yeah.
We'll see who the quarterback is next year. Yeah. All right. Let's stay in the state of Florida. And there was an upset. 29-21, the Florida Gators knock off the Texas Longhorns. Dan, you called this one.
I did.
Picked this. How did we feel? Did
I don't
the game
remember
go the way expected?
I don't know if I picked Texas to lose this game. I forget my, outcome pick, but yeah, this fell under my rubric of quality defense at home as a dog in a tough place to play. How do I feel about this game? Texas is just okay, right? Texas measures itself the way that they've been built against the best of the sport. And the best of Arch Manning appears to be very good. You don't see it all that often. Very hard to see it behind this offensive line with an almost non-existent run game. Did the running backs finish with under 15 or 20 yards in this game?
No.
I don't know if you have it in front of you.
I don't have it in front of me, no. But yeah.
I think the running backs did. There were, his touchdown throw to Ryan Wingo was outstanding, deep over the middle. His deeper throws that aren't intercepted are great. But along the lines of scrimmage in this game, both lines of scrimmage, Texas was completely outclassed. They did not belong on the field. They got pushed around in the run game when Florida had the ball, and they were not able to figure out the Florida pass rush when they themselves had the ball. Texas is a mess. Like I say, in the present tense, Penn State is a mess. Texas is a mess because Arch has been there for 3 years now. There's a lot of players who are new, are young. It's a new offensive line. This wasn't a unit that Sark went after guys in the portal to bolster and help, and it shows. I don't know how much it would have been improved today. Couldn't have been much worse. And so I came away from this game thinking, I'm not sure Arch Manning knows how to read an SEC defense.
Right.
Like just throwing into double coverage, making mistakes. There were times where I felt like his footwork in the pocket was extraordinary. Like that he felt at such ease. And there were times where I felt like he didn't know where the pressure was coming from. And so Texas just struggled in every phase against Florida. And I've spent I've spilled too much audio ink on Texas specifically because Florida looked good.
Yeah, they did.
Florida looked good, man. They felt
did.
inspired. You talk about a freshman receiver in Malachi Toney who's popping off. Dallas Wilson made his season debut. Long-time Oregon commit.
Yep,
Dallas
your
Wilson
boy.
signed with Oregon and then decided to switch things over and dealing with stuff behind the scenes, and it's all understandable and defensible.
He looked like an NFL receiver.
He bodied Texas DBs. He looked real good. And so where he transfers after Billy Napier gets fired, who's to say? Ty, who is to say?
Jed Fish will make sure that he and DJ Lagway stay there as a tandem.
Buddy, Florida looks like this the rest of the season. We don't know how good Texas is, but who knows what Florida looks like. They looked better. DJ Lagway looked more comfortable. He knew he had more options. He knew that things were going to be easier given how successful the Florida run game was. And the Florida defense was extraordinary. The Florida defense looked like a very good defense should look against a discombobulated offense like Texas's is. What did you come away thinking?
This was just night and day.
Yeah.
We talk often on this show, especially when we're dealing with a school like Florida that has fallen on some hard times early. And I think it's my line. I know it's been your line in the past where you can't always expect these teams to just sort of switch it on.
Right.
Switch it on against a better opponent and a good defense, even if it's at home. That's sometimes a bridge too far. Florida switched it on. They switched it on. That's sort of what happened here. DJ Lagway, as you said, was much better. The defense, which has not gotten pressure at all this season, sacked Arch Manning 6 times. It felt like Florida was the physically dominant team. They had 10 more minutes of possession. And, finally getting Dallas Wilson back was a huge coup in the passing game. Gave them a true wide receiver 1, or at least for this game, a wide receiver 1. He went off for 6 and 111 and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
Talk about an instant impact. That was a big deal. A really big deal getting him back. So I credit Florida for finding some way to circle the wagons, get organized enough to beat I still think a pretty good Texas team, but a Texas team with flaws. They're flawed.
I agree. Trey Wisner, 8 carries for 11 yards. He was their leading running back rusher in this game. And so
they had 2 yards a carry. Yeah. 2 yards a carry as a rushing entity, the Texas Longhorns. And so it was all on Arch Manning. And like you said, the best of Arch is a beautiful 38-yard touchdown pass to Ryan Wingo.
Mm-hmm.
The worst of Arch doesn't recognize the pressure. Shot puts the ball out there, has funky mechanics, forces passes sometimes into traffic. I was watching Arch. I was thinking there's a little bit of Drew Aller in this game, which is not a great comparison or compliment, I guess, but I think probably a fair comparison. And to that point, there's a little bit of Penn State and Texas. I just keep waiting for them to pop into the next gear. I don't know if we've seen it yet. I don't know if we ever will.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's all correct what you've said. I go back to the fact that this is his 3rd year in the system. That by now, if you are struggling to look comfortable consistently at home, on the road, whatever, you've been through this, the film study that he's been through, the practices that he's been through, the game experience that he's had, and he just kind of seems like he is what he is. And now you can use the lesson of any of these teams, of UCLA, of Florida, of whatever, that you can be in all sorts of really depressing depths as a program, as a team, and you can pull yourself out, that you can be terrible in September and improve in October and November, right? That you can treat the season like a living, breathing thing that grows and evolves and improves and grows into your fully realized self. We just haven't seen that direction from Texas yet.
We haven't.
We didn't see it against Ohio State, and we most certainly did not see it in the weeks leading up to this game against lesser, quality opponents. So I hold out hope for my own entertainment's sake that Texas improves, but it doesn't seem obvious how and where it's going to happen quickly.
My final point on Texas, and specifically Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Did you happen to catch down the stretch, Arch's helmet gets ripped off on a play, he has to sit out?
Oh, the backup who came in?
Matthew Caldwell comes in and immediately rips a post 26 yards down the field.
Yep.
The throwing motion for Matthew Caldwell compared to Arch Manning was like silky smooth. It
Okay.
felt like a breath of fresh air watching him throw the ball versus Arch throwing. I don't know if something's wrong with Arch. I don't know if that's the way Arch has always looked, but his mechanics as compared to his backup looked demonstrably more rickety. And I don't know, that hit me. That hit me deep in my core. Arch is still a Manning. Arch is still going to be probably, I'm sure, pretty good. But I don't know. It's just we're not necessarily getting what we bargained for here. Certainly not the people who made Arch Manning the prohibitive favorite to win the Heisman before the season. It's not going to happen this year if it's going to happen at all.
Well, Matthew Caldwell has that Jared Parker DNA, a Troy transfer. So who's to say what the ceiling is?
All right, let's stay in the SEC. Alabama, Vandy.
Yeah.
This was a game that a lot of attention.
I had to look that up.
Yeah, thank you.
Caldwell was. Yeah, continue.
Alabama 30, Vandy 14. This is a game that we talked a lot about, given circumstances, given the baggage from a year ago.
Yeah.
Should come as no surprise. We had people writing into us, a lot of people interested in this game, a lot of people rooting for Vandy in this game.
Yeah.
I thought this was an incredible football game. And there were a couple moments early when I said to you, Vandy looks like they could win the damn SEC. Vandy looked good. For a good chunk of this game, they look good. And I think there's some real cognitive dissonance here for a lot of us when it comes to Vandy, especially those of us who have been covering the sport for a while, because Vandy's just been so bad for so long. They weren't last year. This year, I don't think they are either. I think they're a pretty good team now.
Yeah.
We just got to get over it. I'm speaking mostly to myself.
Yeah.
They are not just a cute story. They're a tough out. They're legitimately good. And Alabama, over the course of this game, did what Alabama is good at. And that is give the ball to Ty Simpson, let him create plays, allow him to extend plays.
Yeah.
With his ability in the pocket, with his legs. He's not a runner like Jalen Milroe, but he's really good at moving around. He's good at extending plays. He was especially dangerous in this football game. And I thought Ty Simpson, again, continued to do what he has done ever since that first week of the season. And that is put Alabama in a position to win, keep opposing defenses on skates, and be really efficient through the air. He had an outstanding football game.
Yeah, the big thing that I noticed with Ty Simpson, and I picked Vandy to win this game, which, for a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, felt pretty good about that pick. But the big thing I've noticed about Ty Simpson since that Florida State loss was his decision-making and his, this is my move and I'm going for it now. You can see that he sat in film study and somebody with a laser pointer was like, this is when you throw it, dude. This receiver runs by this safety. As soon as you see that that's happening, your windup begins. You step in and you let it rip. And it has become so much more of a joy to watch him play because he seems so much more decisive. And there's some ambivalence in the pocket sometimes and feeling pressure and taking sacks that he shouldn't be taking. There's that kind of stuff with the first year starter. But by and large, especially down the middle of the field today, I mean, finding, take your pick. I think he has a really nice connection with Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard, but Josh Cuevas got into it, the tight end. And I thought you saw the difference in Alabama finally being able to run the ball today.
Yeah. Nice game for Jam Miller.
Really sharp.
Yeah.
And the running game in general looked very, very sharp. And so I just thought he looked so much more confident in what he was seeing down the field. And he's got great players, obviously. But it just seemed like he was much more I don't know, whatever, in line with Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer. And for Vanderbilt's part, Diego Pavia made plays. He had the long run. I think it was at Ced Alexander early on, had the 60-plus yard run, and there were some turnover stuff early, and obviously later in the game, Bama had some red zone struggles. They definitely need to clean that up. We saw that in the second half last week. We saw it in the second half this week against Vandy. But by and large, the Bama defense came to play, and they adjusted to Vandy really nicely. I didn't think the Vandy defense adjusted all that well to what Alabama was doing. They were getting shredded up the middle. I don't know if they were just sitting in some kind of zone that Ty Simpson was seeing. I'm going to have to go back and watch the game a little bit more closely. But the picture seemed like it was in 4K and I don't know what the human eye can actually register, but Ty Simpson's vision was super impressive, and Alabama is playing with a confidence against what I still think, and I think you agree, is a very good Vanderbilt team that I think probably is incredible to see if you're a Bama fan. Things to clean up for sure, but a great next step in the season.
I think it's meaningful for Bama to cover, and we don't play any of these games. At least you and I don't view these games that much through the point spread. But the whole saying about good teams win and great teams cover, I think is meaningful in a game like this because Vandy's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And they're a good team, and they're going to beat others in the SEC before all is said and done. This is a game, Alabama, there was an obvious, set of baggage here. Of course, there was a revenge tilt for them, but Vandy wanted to do this again, and Diego Pavia has proven very effective in games like this. So for Bama to put Vandy out of its misery, for them to be able to run the ball, which is something they have not done much at all this season, for Ty Simpson to have the kind of game he had, and for Alabama, I think, to win going away, as it felt if you watch this thing, I don't know, that's meaningful to me. And that's something I definitely paid some attention to when I was putting my ballot together, which I'll show you guys a little bit later on in the show.
Can't wait.
All right. Another one here as we switch gears and talk about Big 12 football was a game that I think you and I disagreed on as well.
Okay.
Cincinnati knocked off Iowa State by a 38-30 score.
Yeah, buddy.
Not a lot of defense in this one. This was an early game. This is kind of the big early game at high noon Eastern time. For Cincinnati, it was big play after big play after big play. I kept waiting for them to stop. Surely, Dan, the big plays had to stop at some point.
Yeah.
Never did.
Not really, no.
Never did.
I'm curious to see what Iowa State's yards before contact number is, because Evan Pryor was running wild.
Yeah.
There was so much room for Cincinnati in this game. I came away super impressed with what Cincinnati was doing on offense, and especially in that first half. I paused, I went back, and I was at a kids soccer game during this game, so I went back and I watched every play that I could. And if you had told me the Iowa State defense decided 7 minutes before kickoff to have like a Thanksgiving meal, it would have made a lot more sense watching the Iowa State defense. I don't know how beat up they are in this moment. They looked sluggish. They looked indecisive. They didn't look like they had the fire needed to win this game. And Cincinnati came out with their hair on fire. It was
absolutely
such a
did.
striking contrast to me that Cincinnati's game plan was just incredible, and Iowa State was just trying to react constantly. And I saw Rocco Beck threw the ball 50 times. That's not Iowa State football. If he's throwing it 48, 49 times, it's bad news.
Yeah, I mean, to the point, Iowa State was down 16 guys.
Yeah.
And injury. And it did look it, but even still, that's not really an excuse for the poor tackling.
Yeah.
We saw in this game.
Awful.
This was still a much, much better defense statistically than they showed in this game with respect to preventing chunk plays. Cincinnati just pounded them, and they were dominant up front. You were right. They ran for a season-high 260 yards. Iowa State was pretty much playing catch-up the whole game. And I give Cincy a lot of credit for coming out really aggressive, for keeping their foot on the gas. Even though Iowa State did mount a bit of a comeback towards the end, Cincinnati and the lead that they got out to right away set the tone, established up front that if Iowa State wanted to win, they had to come from behind and do so on the road. And kudos to Scott Satterfield.
Yeah.
And Cincinnati for getting a big win. This, of course, puts the Big 12 in more of a state of flux now with a loss here. We saw a really close one in the Big 12. Baylor knocks off K-State by a 35-34 score. That was a wild game.
Yep.
We could talk about that one. Texas Tech, just steady Eddie. They end up winning 35-11 over Houston. We saw BYU win on Friday night over West Virginia. Arizona won. I believe TCU ended up winning their game, pulling away late.
Yep.
Against Colorado, and Kansas got a dub as well over UCF. But there are a bunch of teams sort of just clustered in there where you can make a case for a bunch of them, and I think feel pretty okay about it.
Agree.
But there is just so much variability now from game to game when we're talking about these Big 12 teams. A lot of them feel the same, but each game feels a little bit different, which is just very strange, and I think adds to the whole appeal of the Big 12 being the most wide open, interesting conference in the sport.
Agree. Yeah. No, there's definite quality and bulk here. We nailed that. What was the Kansas State Baylor game? Did feel like it was going to be tight back and forth. I haven't watched the game as closely as I'd like to, and eventually will. But it seemed like K-State had this game. And
Let me tell you what you
suddenly
need to
did
know
not.
about this game. Let me
Please.
tell you what you need to know. What you need to know about this game, if you didn't watch it, if you're going to go back and watch it, or if you're just interested from afar.
Yeah.
Both fan bases were pissed off after this game.
Those are the best. Yeah.
Both were pissed off about something, because if you're a Baylor fan, there were early mistakes. They were falling behind. They needed this furious comeback. It was a stadium that looked a little bit too much like the Rose Bowl for everybody's satisfaction. There were a lot of empty seats. On the K-State side, they were giving up a ton of chunk plays. They were not converting on some of those early mistakes from Baylor. They blew a 14-point lead late. It was their 5th time in 6 games that it was a 1-score margin. They just cannot get separation.
No.
And I think the most frustrating part of all, Avery Johnson has not been great this season. He actually had a really good game, as you might expect for any quarterback going up against Baylor. But it was a late pick 6 that's going to overshadow everything.
Oof. Yeah.
So again, both fan bases come out of this one, I think, wanting and feeling like they left a lot out there and they should be better than this.
Yep. But only one won a clunker. Yeah.
Only one won a clunker. Over in the Big Ten, Dan.
Please.
We, of course, talked about, I think, the main one, the Penn State loss. But we had Michigan knocking off Wisconsin 24-10.
Yep.
We had a Nebraska-Michigan State game, which was one of the more entertaining games of the day. Nebraska did not cover the 11.5-point spread by a half point. That little hook.
Yeah.
38-27. Washington needed 21 unanswered to come back from a late deficit in the fourth quarter to win at Maryland, traveling cross country, 24-20.
Yep.
We had Illinois getting 390 yards from one Luke Altmaier. And Northwestern got a win over UL Monroe.
Yes.
I'm impressed with Michigan right now.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people are sleeping on Michigan.
Okay.
It was a season high 270 yards passing for Bryce Underwood. It was a 5th straight 100-yard game for Justice Haynes. Of course, you had your normal complement of controversial calls and missed pass interferences and missed false starts, all sorts of weird stuff. But if you look at Michigan, they're currently 4-1 on the road at USC, home against Washington and Purdue, on the road at Northwestern and Maryland. Close out the year, of course, that big game against Ohio State. I'm just saying, watch out for Michigan. It feels like they might be getting better. And with the schedule they've got coming up, I think most of these teams are beatable, maybe with the exception of Ohio State. But it could be interesting down the stretch with the Michigan Wolverines. Do not count them out.
I'm still not thrilled with where Michigan is on offense. And this is not to say not thrilled with Bryce Underwood. It's more just the sloppiness from receivers. And I know they made some changes at receivers, and Donovan McCulley actually really stepped up today. I thought that's a really nice step in the right direction. Wisconsin defense did enough in this game, especially those first 2.5 quarters, to make this a legit game. They start a new quarterback. You know, it's sort of like 1 step forward, 2 steps back with this offense. Luke Fickell had a weird thing where he had his timeouts and they decided, and that was like a longer post-game conversation, but they were able to move the ball. I think they kicked a field goal to go down 2 touchdowns, and with like 3 or 4 minutes left, Michigan had the ball, and he just didn't call timeouts, and Michigan took like 2 minutes off the clock.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's not advisable. Not that Wisconsin had any sort of reason to believe that their offense could score 2 quick touchdowns, but it just, I don't know. It felt like there was white flag waving from Wisconsin. But by and large, what Michigan was able to do today, and sidebar, I love the like yellow or the maize accents that they were wearing in this game.
That looked really sharp.
Looked great.
I loved it.
Got good runs from Justice Haynes. Nice throws from Bryce Underwood. Donovan McCulley came to play. But I wouldn't say it was an overwhelming effort from Michigan's offense.
No, it wasn't.
I think there are positives to take away from it. I think they started a true freshman tight end at one of the receiver spots, and that was promising. But I don't know. I think there's a lot to clean up still for Michigan, and that's okay. It's a true freshman quarterback. That's understandable.
I should also mention that Ohio State won 42-3. They held the highest graded passer in the Big Ten, Drake Lindsey, to 94 yards. Meanwhile, Julian Sayin went 23 of 27 for 326 and 3 touchdowns. They outgained Minnesota 474 to 162. Don't think there was much of a surprise that Ohio State won big, but this was a dominant showing.
Yes.
The two other things I just want to call out very quickly, since I know we mentioned the game.
Should point out it was a freshman receiver, not a freshman tight end. For
freshman receiver, thank you.
Yeah, Andrew Marsh. Yeah.
I did not think Nebraska was overly impressive in their game.
I think there were elements of Nebraska that were impressive. Now their offensive line.
No, they did enough. They did make some big plays.
Yep.
They got a win. Dylan Raiola, 194, a touchdown, ended up throwing a pick. They ran okay. 83 yards with Emmett Johnson. He had 3 touchdowns on the ground.
Yep.
This was a win that they needed to get. They did hold Michigan State down on like third downs. I think they went 2 of 14.
Yep.
There were a couple turnovers in there. So like that side of it, I think I take away as a positive. But offensively, I felt like I wanted more. I felt like it was there against this defense, and I wanted a little bit more.
It was in both of these teams' defenses in terms of what the stat line looks like. It was 20-mile-an-hour winds. And so, I don't know,
Right.
Dylan Raiola has a big arm, and so you got to be able to throw through that sometimes, and he had some nice throws. The long touchdown, I want to say, was a screen caught at the line of scrimmage and then run for 60 yards. So that may have skewed his bottom line a little bit, but a nice job. Yeah, I think you're on target here because I thought it was a nice job by Nebraska's defense more than anything. Offensive line is a wreck, but that's nothing new. I thought Raiola was fine. He was okay. Didn't get me going all that much. But he's the quarterback for a winning team, and to do what he does when he's able to make plays behind that line, it's impressive.
And the only other Big Ten point I have is that Washington deserves some praise for traveling cross country in a letdown spot.
Yeah.
Right? They had Ohio State last week at home. Obviously didn't win that game, but now having to travel cross country to play a Maryland team. Maryland was up on them for most of the game. They needed that comeback late in order to get the dub. They were able to get the job done. So I credit them. I think that was a really tough spot. I think it shows a lot of resilience.
Oh, it was 100% losable spot. They didn't score in the first half. I think they went nearly 7 straight quarters without scoring a touchdown. 7 quarters. They didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter in this one. They needed 3 touchdowns to close things out. So an impressive effort from Washington to close out an incredibly losable game for the Huskies, and Maryland not closing this out. I know there's controversial calls both ways, and I understand it. Maryland not closing this game out is a pretty catastrophic look for the Terps. This would have been a signature win for Mike Locksley, and not able to close it out.
In the ACC, Virginia gets another win.
Yep.
Louisville was my lock of the week, so obviously Virginia gets the win in overtime. Their second straight overtime victory. They win 30-27 on the road. A much different game than we saw last week against Florida State. And I think that's interesting because
2 defensive touchdowns? Yeah.
Well, yeah, anytime you have a team sort of come out of nowhere where there's not much expectation and suddenly they're playing really well, there's the obvious question of, what else can they do? We've seen them win a couple games like this, but how else can they win games if forced to? They answered some new questions in this one. The offense was not nearly as effective or efficient as we've seen recently.
Right.
Never felt like it clicked in this game. So the defense steps up. They had 14 points, one with a scoop and score, another with a pick 6.
Yeah.
They were able to dial up pressure on defense. They ended up with 5 sacks in the second half alone on Louisville. They were really good against the run. They didn't get roasted by Isaac Brown. Something was up with the turf in this game. I don't know if you had a chance to watch, but guys,
I think that's like a weird reputation that Louisville has in general, that they've got
but it was just
turf that injures players, allegedly.
It felt worse to me. I don't
Yeah.
know. They were sliding around like they were on ice out there.
Yeah.
That wasn't pleasant. But I thought the way that Virginia won this game, sort of in a different capacity than we're used to seeing, or than we've been used to seeing these last couple weeks of the year in September, that to me was impressive. And there's not a whole lot of ammo left on that Virginia schedule. You know, I don't know if they've got the metal to sort of run the table and go through this thing and really surprise us. Even if they don't, what they've done so far, I think, is a huge success and definitely re-ups Tony Elliott. Like, they're not going to get rid of him at this point. How could they?
Yeah, as long as they keep ponying up for portal stuff every year or recruiting stuff and NIL stuff, Virginia's in a nice place. I was really impressed with, I think it's Jamari Taylor, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure I get my names correct, Ty, at my advanced age. In sort of an all-purpose role for Virginia was great, able to pull that out against Miller Moss and Louisville. I mean, to do it on the road, especially in that letdown spot, as you mentioned, and not getting it from Chan Mo, who seems off. I don't know. There's something physically there. I don't know. But very impressive from the Who's. Wahoo wah.
All right. Rapid fire ACC other scores. Pitt wins by 41 with a backup quarterback, Mason Heinschel.
Eli Holstein benched.
Yeah, maybe this is what Pitt needed to realize their ACC championship fate. Who knows?
It's not too late, Ty. My standings say they are 1-1 in the ACC in this moment.
Clemson 38, UNC 10.
Guess who just got murdered?
This was 35-3 at half. It's what we would call typically a flash fry on this here show. The Bill Belichick experiment is not working. It does not seem like it is working. This might have been an extreme case against one of the better teams, maybe, in the ACC, at least in the top half of the ACC.
Maybe.
Their defense got torched. They started Max Johnson. That wasn't a great showing from him. It was just all around bad. All around bad for North Carolina. I don't know what the immediate future looks like, but if this is a measuring stick against Clemson, they didn't look up to it at all. We had Wake Forest going on the road to Lane Stadium and winning. We had SMU winning comfortably over Syracuse, though Cuse came back a bit. And then we had a win from NC State. The Duke California game is currently ongoing. We'll have to get to that one when we talk about things on Tuesday.
The late West Coast affair. Should also mention regarding the Clemson game, this isn't a full Dvorak experience, but opening play, 75-yard double pass, trick play, Antonio Williams to TJ Moore. The first 6 drives, offensive drives in this game for Clemson against a Bill Belichick and Steve Belichick defense were touchdown, 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 punt, touchdown.
Yeah.
This game was over almost immediately. I cannot believe, as I posted this on some maybe Blue Sky or something, that Hulu is going to exhaust SD card after SD card after SD card following a 2-10 ACC team in which everybody seems to be quitting. Yeah, pretty cool.
Wild. And just to round things out here, 4 more results to win. Notre Dame won handily over Boise State, 28-7. It was close for a while.
Is at the same time too, right?
Close for a while. But I thought a good game from the Notre Dame defense. Notre Dame was clearly the better team. It did take them a bit to get moving. But forced 4 picks from Maddox Madsen. He was running for his life for most of this game. A nauseating performance from the referees, if I don't say so myself.
Could you see this game okay? Notre Dame was in the greens on greens, right?
I struggled with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, my color blindness did not appreciate that uniform choice.
Okay.
24 flags in this game.
Oof.
Just a brutal watch.
Get it fixed.
A million play stoppages. That was not fun. But Notre Dame wins. They, I think, showcased that they were the better team. We had a boat race elsewhere in the SEC with Texas A&M beating Mississippi State. They just slowly pulled away and suffocated Mississippi State.
Well, wasn't it? It was like 14. It was close near the end of this game. It was a big fourth quarter. Obviously, they turned a short field after a fumble into a score. But this was relatively close for a large chunk of this game. I know Ruben Owens, every time I looked up, he was running wild.
Yeah.
But, a strong way to finish for Texas A&M. I'm excited to watch this game a little bit more closely.
Georgia was dominant over Kentucky, 35-14. They outgained them by a 425 to 270 margin. Kentucky was like 3 of 11 on third downs. Gunnar Stockton with good running on the ground.
Yes.
And Oklahoma blanked Kent State.
Mark Stoops, very defensive after this game. When
Yeah,
there
wasn't
were
he?
questions implying that maybe there should be thought to moving in a new direction for him, for Kentucky, and he seemed irritated at the notion. That's okay.
It is okay. I understand it because they were dominant or dominated by a dominant side. Yeah. So, Dan, here is what my top 12 looks like.
Okay.
As a result of what we saw this week. Okay.
I'm ready.
I've got Miami as my new top team.
Number 1.
I've got Miami as my top team. I'm going Ohio State 2, Oregon 3. Now, I had Oregon 1, but one of the things I wanted to ask you about is now with what we saw from Penn State, if that takes some of the heat out of Oregon.
I mean, sure. But, doing it on the road, doing it in that environment, and there are proven very good players on at least this Penn State defense that came in as proven guys. Doesn't mean Penn State is a proven good team. But yes, I still think that game is impressive from Oregon. But yeah, you got to take the whole scope of the Penn State experience into account. So if you want to dock Oregon, that's okay. That's your prerogative. That's your poll.
I mean, Oregon didn't even play.
They did not play.
Not a great logical reason to drop them, but this is a limber poll. We get to move things around at will. Yeah. I've got A&M at 4. I love A&M. I've got Bama at 5, Georgia at 6, Ole Miss at 7. So a run of 4 SEC teams there. Indiana at 8, Oklahoma at 9, Mizzou at 10, Tennessee at 11, Texas Tech at 12. Okay. That's how I felt in the immediate aftermath of week 6.
I might have Mizzou a little bit lower just in terms of resume stuff. I don't mind where you have Indiana, nor do I mind where you have Oklahoma or Ole Miss. A&M, resume-wise, because the Notre Dame win looks better, I guess. I think I would have Bama ahead after today of A&M, but that's just sort of personal preference and splitting hairs. I don't think that's terrible, but I also, when I look at your poll, I think to myself, there is no amount of money that I would feel comfortable wagering on Miami to beat Ohio State on a neutral field in this moment.
No, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Yeah.
If you've got thoughts on that, please write in.
Yeah.
Come and fight me.
Stop crying and fight your father.
Come and fight me. I'm willing to defend my choices. For those of you who are watching live, who have been staying up with us and paying attention to our week 6 reaction stream, I want to get some questions from the Verbal up here before too long. Before we get there, though, we should pay sweet homage, Dan Rubenstein.
I'm ready.
To the kind folks that called in at 855-VERBAL-3. That is the Reverb line where people leave voice messages. The sense that I get from listening to this and from talking to our chief Reverb engineer, Shay, is that we had a lot of folks that were shell-shocked by some of these results.
I'm sure.
We had a lot of folks that were shell-shocked. So though we had sort of the normal amount come in, we had a fair amount of people who I don't know if they knew what to say in response to what we saw. Here are your week 6 Reverbs. Have a listen.
My wife's window of opportunity went much longer than I expected today. So when I first sat down and saw the Penn State UCLA game in the third quarter, I yelled, "Oh my God," so loud, she ran to the room thinking I was hurt.
Hey, y'all. This is William in Clemson, South Carolina.
This is Andrew from Atlanta.
Tommy here, calling in from Virginia. I'm at a wedding. Just checked the Penn State score, and is it Grunky time? Because Drew Aller, man.
Ty, I have a poem for you. I hope you like it. Roses are red, Bruins are blue. Penn State stinks. Fire James Franklin, too.
Does Penn State have a Rose Bowl problem?
Hey, this is Don from Laurel. Is this the Better Helpline? I'm a Penn State alum, and I need some help.
Got a couple questions for you. You know, all we did is beat the dog mess out of a 6-time Super Bowl champion. Is that good? All we did is hang 28 points on him in the first quarter. I don't know. Is that good?
I very much like it when Caden Proctor gets the ball. Please keep doing that, Alabama.
Arch's helmet comes off. Got to sit out for a play. Caldwell slings a 26-yard pass. Arch just pooches it away. My wife goes, why did they just leave that Caldwell guy in there?
Can we just talk about Arch Manning? He's not that great. He's just a baby. In the swamp to Billy Napier, you lost that game? Sheesh, my buddy. Sheesh.
Granted, you can't spin your wheels for 3 quarters against a quality team, but 24 unanswered on the road, bow down to Washington.
I can't believe Auburn managed to lose to the bye week. Didn't even play and still lost. In all seriousness, though, how many rounds of golf did Hugh Freeze play this weekend? Setting the over-under at 3.5 and taking the over. Nebraska definitely is not back, but I saw them do something today I was starting to become convinced they might never do again. Win a freaking clunker. GBR, baby.
There's a new sheriff in town at Pitt. His name is Mason Heinschel. Those ACC championship dreams are not dead.
Man, I didn't think Ohio State's best win of the season would come against Illinois next week. Yikes.
Shay is still a dude. I still love you guys, but please, for the love of Jesus, never, ever, 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 ever lock up Louisville again. Okay, thanks. Bye.
I know James Franklin isn't wearing a bald cap, but his head just kind of looks like he's wearing a bald cap all the time.
Fire up chips? No, fire up zips.
There we go. 855 Verbal 3, a wonderful collection of verballers as per usual. Dan Rubenstein.
Yes.
Let's bring this home. We got a couple questions that have filed in here. This one from Trevor. Are we all just deluding ourselves into thinking that Ohio State isn't going back-to-back?
Maybe. It's entirely possible. They looked really, really strong. Their defense, they haven't allowed a touchdown in 3 weeks or something crazy since the Ohio game, I want to say. They didn't allow it against Washington. They didn't allow one against Minnesota. They're, not to get too into the weeds in this game, I don't think they allowed a point after the first Minnesota drive. Right? Minnesota scored 3 points in this game. That was the final tally.
42-3.
Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs on the same defense doing whatever they want. They're filthy. And Carnell Tate downfield, Jeremiah Smith downfield, or more intermediate today, I guess. The run game came awake a little bit, but I'd rather have Ohio State than Miami. I probably would rather have Ohio State than Oregon in this moment, but I think it's very, very tight because I think Oregon's better on defense than they were last season. But man, that's we're gonna have to make peace with that.
We're going to have to make peace with it. And though it was a popular talking point at the start of the year that Ohio State was losing a lot and they had to integrate a bunch of new pieces and it wasn't going to be the same team, I think that was, as Trevor points out, our way of maybe coping with the fact that Ohio State was still going to be very, very good.
Yeah.
And that the possibility of them going back-to-back was still very real. There was a reason why I think they were the championship favorite
now,
in the
hold
preseason.
On. If you are going to say that you are discounting Oregon's win against a putrid Penn State because of how they look today, what exactly is the win that Ohio State has this season? And you can make an argument that the manner that they've won looks to be championship level. What is that team that you're like, man, since playing Ohio State, they've also looked terrific and just didn't against Ohio State? Texas hasn't looked good. Washington hasn't looked like the offense against Guppies has looked fine. They had no offense against Maryland for 3 quarters. They were, that was a 1 touchdown game against Wazoo late. Who is that team? I mean, I know you're a PFF Drake Lindsay guy. He did nothing against Ohio State.
No.
So Ohio State may not have that win. They look like a championship team against their schedule thus far. But as of now, there is no team where you're like, They've otherwise looked good.
Well, I mean, coming up here, we're going to find out. Maybe we'll get a little bit more data this coming week. They're on the road at Illinois. That'll be one of the big games of the week. That'll be the big noon game.
Yeah.
They do have the game against Penn State. I mean, I think some of the shine is off of that one.
Yeah,
but
it's lost to Michigan at the end of the year. Yeah,
it's still going to obviously be a pretty big talking point. And then they're on the road in the big house. As you said, the loss to Michigan at the end of the year, November the 29th. We will see. I mean, there are a few other opportunities here for them to go up against some better competition, not to mention if they end up playing Oregon in the Big Ten title game.
Sure.
That could be another data point, but all signs at this point are pretty positive when it comes to the Buckeyes.
Agree.
All right. This one from Chaka. Who are your G6 favorites after a month and a half of the season?
Great question.
I think Tulane is the answer.
Really?
I think Tulane's probably the answer. Yeah.
So November 7th, Tulane is on the road at Memphis,
right?
I believe. There are a few teams. So very quietly, UNLV hasn't lost. Fresno lost to Kansas, but Fresno's schedule is pretty good. I don't trust their pass game long term. They could win double-digit games, though. Here's another quiet undefeated. The Midshipmen of Navy have not lost a game yet. Correct? Fact check me on that.
Okay.
But have you looked at Navy's schedule this season?
We talked about Navy's schedule in the preseason.
Well, it's the same schedule as we looked at and it finishes with at North Texas, at Notre Dame, Byron Brown, who I think went for 373 total yards today in USF at home, at Memphis, and then the Army game, 2.5 weeks later. Woo! That's tough. So I think I favor Memphis slightly over Tulane at this point, just because the game is at Memphis and, having a win over an SEC team. And obviously Tulane has their Duke win, but I favor Memphis slightly, but I am taking note of teams who are taking care of business this first month of the season.
I mean, the three teams that I would call out, Tulane, South Florida, I love South Florida. South Florida, by the time all is said and done, could end up having a really good win over Florida. And we'll have to see how Boise ends up doing the remainder of their season. But those could end up being two monster non-conference wins.
Agreed.
That do a lot of work for them through the eyes of the playoff committee. And then the other would be Memphis. I think Memphis right now, despite the fact that they lost a lot from a year ago, Memphis is playing better defense than I expected.
Yep.
And I think that could end up being like a real turning point for them in the season. They're 6-0 right now. And if you look at the remainder of their schedule, I mean, you bring up the game that they've got against Tulane, second week of November. But beyond that, it's a lot of teams that look like they're very beatable. They've got USF, but that's at home. They've got Navy, but that's at home. Things set up pretty well for them, provided they can keep trucking along.
You know who does not have either Memphis nor Tulane, according to the schedule I'm looking at? North Texas.
The Mean Green.
North Texas does have USF, I believe, this coming week 7. That's a huge game in the American. But otherwise, UTSA, who just lost to Temple, Charlotte is in a rebuild. Navy, we'll see. We just mentioned them. They're undefeated. They're good. UAB's terrible. Rice is fine, but not amazing. And Temple, we'll see, but they're also in the middle of a rebuild. If North Texas's defense continues, I think their offense is going to be good. I don't know. Hanging around, man.
Final question here. Can y'all give me your top 3 risers and stinkers of the NIL era?
Okay.
Blue Bloods will be Blue Bloods, but who took advantage and who has not taken advantage with respect to NIL?
Who pooped the bed?
Yeah.
Risers and stinkers of the NIL era. Well, the NIL era is sort of tied to the portal era. So, limited sample size in this moment, but Indiana, right? They've come to play. Kurt Cignetti immediately he's not NIL, but I guess he is NIL because he's getting paid for his name, image, and likeness. He is extended and a monster, and Indiana is that team right now. Texas Tech, we'll see. The investment is there. The results are TBD. They look like the strongest team right now in the Big 12, but there's a lot of season left. I think they just got a commitment from the number 1 defensive lineman of the class of 2027, which sounds like a fake year. I'm going to further investigate to learn whether or not it's a real year. 2027?
Yeah,
No,
he's
that
built
doesn't
like
sound
a
right.
Ford truck.
Yes.
He's a monster. I looked up his vitals before hitting go here, and I mean that's a pretty big get for them.
Yes. So they appear to be one of the winners. I'm trying to think of
the other one that I would throw out is Ole Miss.
Sure.
Because Ole Miss is ever very active in the portal, and it seems like they've been able to integrate guys pretty effectively.
Yeah.
Year in and year out, whether we're talking about like quarterback with just bringing over Jackson Dart and turning him into a first round talent. Obviously what they're doing this year with Trinidad Chambliss is kind of an entirely different thing, but they're getting a pretty effective stat line out of him week in and week out. And clearly they're an attraction in terms of getting guys on campus. So I think Ole Miss is one that comes to mind. The question is, I think, a little bit more complicated when you're talking about stinkers, because I think it's rare that you're going to have schools that completely whiff. Like an obvious example of that would be Florida State last year.
Right.
Florida State last year tried a bunch of transfer maneuvers, NIL maneuvers, and none of it worked. That's why they won 2 games.
Yeah.
So we have some instances like that because so much of this is dependent on the transfer portal now. That might be the most extreme example. I don't know if it tends to be, the type of thing where we can very obviously point out who the stinkers are, but we can clearly point out which players do not work out. Like you can make a case that the running back from Tulane who transferred up to Oregon, Malachi Hughes,
yeah,
he was a stinker in terms of the transfer portal because he was not good enough. They paid him to come to campus, and he's going to end up going somewhere else next year. Oregon, by and large, has not been a stinker with respect to NIL or the transfer portal.
No, they've been a big winner, not even just because of, finding transfers and the way that they recruit, but they haven't lost a starter, I don't believe, to the portal. Notre Dame has done a really good job in terms of retention. And also stinkers in terms of the power conference teams. Look at the ones that have fired their coaches, because part of that, like UCLA has been a stinker in terms of NIL. Obviously they got Nico and that paid off today. Oklahoma State, we saw those stories. Virginia Tech just announced that they're going to raise and invest a ton more in their football program, which kind of points out to me that it needed to happen and they weren't anywhere near where they needed to be. So that tends to be a direction I would look in.
Yeah, and
Arkansas was famously, they just weren't able to retain quality players. Yeah.
No, and I mean, it gets even more complicated on the stinker side because you could argue that a school like a Colorado is both a winner and a loser, depending on your perspective. So that part is a little bit more nuanced, but I think we have some obvious answers with respect to who's been doing a pretty good job of it.
And you have some stinkers that are growing into perhaps, like USC is one of those teams that has struggled to translate, NIL and portal into consistent success, but maybe they've turned a corner now. Who knows?
Dan Rubenstein, let's close this thing out. As you know, often here on the show, we like to give out dude alerts. Let's give out some dude alerts, shall we?
Please.
Dude alerts are our version of players of the week. We put out a call on social media, usually later on at night, try and get the sense for who deserves our praise. We had a bunch of names come in. Dan, who do we got today?
Well, you mentioned the bear coat that Baylor players wear after a turnover, but BYU employs a bear at quarterback. Yes. Bear Bachmeier lit up West Virginia Friday night, and he's been quietly very, very good for BYU. So total dude this week. Noah Fafita hasn't been good in a couple years. Guess what solves that? Playing Oklahoma State. Yeah. Noah Fafita, welcome back to having a dude performance. And absolutely was. I'm going to put Ty Simpson in there. I mentioned Byron Brown going for 370 some odd total yards, ran for 162. Jam Miller, Alabama with a big improvement on the ground, and he was a major reason, obviously, why, along with that offensive line. Carnell Tate went for over 180 yards against a Minnesota defense that had thus far been pretty good. Hank Beatty continues to make plays for Illinois. I thought he was super impressive. Michael Trigg for Baylor got a couple of votes. Deshaun Singleton for Nebraska. 2 picks, 6 tackles, and a scoop and score that was called back per chance on Twitter or whatever it's called now. Dallas Wilson, 1 game, 1 dude performance. Pretty good ratio.
Not bad.
I'm trying to think of anybody else. Jacob Rodriguez got a bunch for Texas Tech. And you're in my Los Angeles Dodgers, full of dudes winning game 1 against the Phillies. Come on.
By the way, a crazy stat on Bear Bachmeier that I saw.
Please.
So they win.
To be clear, Tiger Bachmeier's brother.
Tiger Bachmeier's brother, yes.
Yeah.
Bear Bachmeier, starting quarterback, number 47, which is weird for BYU, steps in after Retzlaff leaves.
Yep.
He's been pretty good. This was a really good game for him. He had 351 yards. I am going to start referring to him as the Bear. I've started pulling sounds from the show, FYI.
The show The Bear. I haven't
The
finished season whatever it was 4 yet.
I won't spoil it, I promise.
I appreciate it.
That's not why I bring this up, though.
Okay.
Bear Bachmeier connected with Chase Roberts late in the second quarter for an 85-yard pass and ended up setting up a touchdown for LJ Martin.
Okay.
That play was BYU's longest pass completion since 1996, Dan. So it's been a hot minute since they had an 85-yard completion. But yes, we've got the Bear. We've got Chase Roberts, an 85-yarder, set up the touchdown most importantly. But it's been a hot minute, 1996, since they had that long of a pass completion. There you go.
Great. Good for them.
You were wondering.
Always.
Big thanks to everybody out there who tuned in live. We appreciate you staying up with us. Big thanks to everybody out there who is downloading and listening after the fact. In both cases, please hit follow or subscribe so that you don't miss any more of our episodes. Of course, we welcome your feedback wherever you can comment. We'd love to hear from you. You can, of course, always email us, solidverbal@gmail.com, or look for us out on social media. We're on all the platforms. Just send us a line. We'd love to hear from you. Love to get your feedback on what you saw in week 6 of college football. If you are interested in submitting your own ballot for the Verballer Top 12, we'll reveal that on the Tuesday episode. But please go on out to verballers.com, VERBALLERS.com. Sign up for a certified or premium tier. That poll is going to go live at 7 a.m. Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, Sunday morning. You'll have about 24 hours to vote before we compile the results and put it into the next episode. I am very curious to see what the Verballer Hood has to say in response to what we saw in week 6. There was just going to be a lot of motion. There's going to be a lot of movement. And as we have seen time and again, it feels like our poll is pretty damn accurate.
Love a limber poll. Yep.
I'm really proud of our community for the job they do with this poll. I'm going to give out a few other free ballots to people online who have expressed some interest as well, just to get some more diversity of thought in there and hopefully get the most accurate poll in all of college football. But if you're interested in participating, verballers.com is where you can go. You also get the satisfaction of supporting what Dan and I do.
What a guy Ty is.
What a guy. What a guy you are, Dan. I'm glad you're feeling better, at least
Me
for
too.
the time being. All righty. That does it for our week 6 reaction episode. Thank you again so much for bearing with us here. More to come on Tuesday as we round the corner then into week 7. Looks like it's going to be a banger, Dan. Looks like a lot of them are going to be bangers moving forward. So we've
Game
got
days in Eugene.
a lot more football still to come. We hope you will be there with us for Ballerhood. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of your day, whenever it is you're listening to this. For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildebrandt. As always, you know the drill. Stay solid.
Peace.